Good. So Philip, you want to share?
Yeah, 1 second.
So, okay, so I will kick us off, and then Philip will take it. We'll take it and dive deeper into our presentation. So, essentially, we're unsure about the structure or what type of audience we would have. Like, would it be more technical? Would we be talking more about the business side of things, so or the data side of things, or the Python side of things, and so on. So we're gonna prepare a quick overview about exactly what we do in People Logic, and then how we do it with Python briefly. Talk about how we do it in Python and why Python in those scenarios. Um, so first off, talking about People Logic. Philippe, you can probably move to the next slide. Yeah. So what is People Logic is essentially, or in a nutshell, is a call people intelligence platform. What I mean is, or the goal here is that it's a tool to help managers and organizations as a whole to serve their employees in a way. So, you know, uh, uh, you know, understand that attrition, engagement levels, and so on. So, and help teams and in the organization to be more productive in a way, but not so it's not about productivity, it's more about organization health and team health and burnout rates, making sure everyone is happy and everyone likes working with each other, and there's no like disconnected folks and or folks on the brink of burning out and throwing the table. Just very brief intro about how this started. It actually started after Matt, the CEO that I know was talking earlier about having met him, but so this started after Matt and me, our last startup. It kind of grew to be, a really toxic place as as investors started coming in, and eventually even got partially sold. Um, so it grew into a bit of a toxic place to work on. So we kind of wanted to try to help others prevent that from happening as they grow, like as they go out of this startup phase where everything is rainbows and everyone is very happy and engaged, and into that more so as they go out from that startup phase and go out on more become a more grown up company, and that's when things tend to become a bit toxic. The company is based in Durham, but the whole engineering team is based in Portugal, as I am natural Portuguese citizen living in Portugal, and it made sense since I'm one of the co-founders and I'm the CTO. Uh, for me, it made sense that the engineering team was closer to me. So we have here Philippe, and I think you also have another representative here. I think Teresa is also here, um, listening to this. So onto the product. So basically, we have like three main components of the product. The first one is what you call the graph, which is commonly known as an, I guess, ONA, or organization network analysis. So essentially is a way to see how teams organically organize themselves. So like how people are connected, which groups can are formed organically, uh, who works well together, who is disconnected from the team, and so on. So it's sort of a way to view um, the team and looking at the team in the organization. So it's sort of comparable to kind of walking around in an open office and checking out how folks are kind of huddling up, like trying to solve specific problems, or who is kind of working on this particular project and so on. So it's like that view that you don't have, like since everyone's remote now. So now it's like so we're kind of trying to provide that view from a remote environment. The other component is what we call the safe factor. So it's essentially a metric. It's a measurement of engagement, or I guess how willing are folks to stick around uh, in the company. So and I guess I like to look at it in as kind of a performance metric, but reverse. So it's more about how is your company and your manager performing in relation to you as an employee. So if you're happy in your, of course, it's very subjective, but the idea is to try to understand if you're engaged and happy with your current role or current responsibilities, or if you're in the brink of burning out, or potentially starting to look for other jobs. And then we have recommendations, which are essentially the drill down version of the state factor. Pretty much. So essentially, are more these more concrete insights and recommendations around your team and your organization, and what provides actual like these early warning. Someone uh, is again on the brink of burning out, or is in need of a vacation, or is completely disconnected from the team, or we think they might not be happy, or just completely um, using a common expression these days, silent quitting, I guess. Um, so yeah, so then so this is kind of people logic in a nutshell. And you can probably move to the next clip. And yeah, and this is just essentially our who we are. So I'm gonna just probably make probably this should have been the first slide, but yeah. So essentially, I am Hernan. I think I already mentioned I'm CDO. People Logic. I did not write this intro, otherwise I wouldn't be so humble, I guess. But yeah, but I'm not originally a data guy. I'm more of a generalist in essence. Data guy here is Philippe. But I was a Python guy a while back. I was actually heavily involved in a previously popular but now kind of defunct, well, not kind of like completely defunct open source project in Python for a few years. And then I was completely disconnected from Python professionally, at least for a while, and now it's sort of sneaked in back as a natural choice for some of the stuff we do. And then we have Philippe. He is a kind of a real star here. The man can make sense of everyone's ramblings and put that into, I guess, concrete data analysis and algorithms and so on. So I met Philippe a few years ago, actually, before he was even even a computer or a software engineer. And at he was working at a decently sized, a pretty big construction company, and he was already like tinkering around with software and data and trying to improve processes, even if that wasn't his role in the company. Um, and yeah, he will be guiding you guys through most of the rest of this presentation, and take it away. So.
Thank you. So I will start to make a little difference from metadata and data. We can understand that metadata is a information that we can get from the data, usually to describe context, content, or structure of a certain data set. And data is the actual information and content stored in form of a file, for example. So some examples, we can see that the metadata in this table is representing for the columns and data type and some description about the columns. And the data is actually the information that we can obtain from these fields. We have this in our daily life from books as a table of content, a summary, cape, I don't know if it's a correct word, from a book, and the actual data is the content of the whole book. Another example is information regarding a picture that we can see the place in map view with some details like the camera, the lens, the exposure, the author and the date, and something more. This is just to make a little context why this is important for us. In big data, usually we have 3 layers of data, bronze, silver, and gold. At metadata, we have the same concept. We have a little difference because we don't use the data as it is. We collect, we make a fetch, and we do a first ETL to make a identification of some fields and create our own raw data. From this bronze, we have another ETL that we construct our ONA and our OIRs. OIRs means observations, insights, and recommendations. We analyze the data from our clients. We try to identify some patterns, some deviations, and what is more or less considered as anomaly. We provide some information regarding that. And for the final stage or layer, we have the gold with also this last information from the silver to use and populate the platform. You can go this.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk briefly about this slide, just to provide some context about where metadata fits in what we do, and then how where the Python fits in these things. So essentially, so it says these little claws are the 3 stages Philippe just has shown. So the way we work, and it's probably important to provide this context, the way People Logic works is essentially by collecting the digital footprint of a company. So via the tools you already use, like your Jira, your Gits, your CRM, Salesforce, whatever, HubSpot, wherever you your Office tool, G Suite or Office 365, uh, all sorts of tools that have an actual digital footprint. So we collect that data and like just the company public data. We're not like looking at private metrics, but the public that is public within the company, right? So we collect that data and we analyze for stuff like these things that are happening, the events, the commits, the opportunities won, the accounts uh, close, the tickets close, wherever. We collect all of that, and then we try to provide context. And we use this metadata. I guess we call it metadata, but maybe like for example, sorry. So we use this metadata to provide this context and like the human metrics that are important to us. So we don't really care so much if a ticket has been closed. It's more like, okay, what did that represent for you? So this brown stage, it's the piece where we're collecting the data and this metadata. Uh, And then I'm just give you an example of how what we're trying to actually collect here. So let's say talking about a ticket, um, a ticket would have a different impact on you depending on a few things, right? So if it was a urgent work, like perhaps it was you were working on something that production hotfix or something that was already past the due date and so on. That was probably urgent work, more stressful work. They're saying, was it meaningful and fulfilling work that fits your expertise, right? So I'm willing to bet most folks here wouldn't necessarily enjoy much tinkering around with CSS, maybe. I don't know, but and they would much rather working with Python or maybe potentially data and so on. Um, so is that work fulfilling and meaningful for you if it's your expertise, or maybe or are you working on a feature that there's no value in this for a problematic customer? So that is sort of things you try to collect from the events and the objects and so on, like based on the data and the metadata. That's we try to kind of classify those events in that way, so that we have those human metrics, right? So that's what we sort of care about here in order to provide our product, I guess. Um, so then I guess this the so at this stage, as this initial brown stage, we are, like Philippe mentioned, we're already doing some sort of transformation. So it's not just the collection, but it's already doing some transformation and some enrichment. And this is important probably because at collection time, like when you have most of that context that we care about, but then there's an actual transformation and enrichment phase in the silver stage where we are converting that data like into useful metrics, for example, the stay factor, but also normalize or auxiliary data sets like normalized connections that eventually become the graph, which is another component, right, in the product. And then this goal stage is essentially, okay, now we have cleaned up data and we have it's ready to be consumed by the front end pieces, whether or all the communication channels with the end customer, whether that is the browser or Slack or wherever. So now the data is ready to be consumed by those places and is organized in a way that allows slicing and dicing of the data and not like drilling down into the insights we provide. Um, so then where does Python fit in? So I guess the interesting bit is that Python pretty much fits in all the stages. And obviously, we're talking about data science and we're talking about Spark and we're talking about PySpark and all those things. But we also and end up using it places that we didn't initially envision using Python. For example, for orchestration of the pipelines and these jobs, like obviously the obvious initial choice is, okay, let's use something like AWS data pipeline or something along those lines. But then we figured out, our or sort of what our requirements don't necessarily need something like that, and essentially we opt for, in this case, just a few simple jobs that run in a Docker container in a Kubernetes cluster, and just and then from there it just calls up a few other services and tries to synchronize the data between them. Just simple Python scripts in this case. The data collection as well is mostly is similar. We have Python jobs running in Docker containers, collecting data from all these sources and transforming it and so on, and then storing it in the database. We actually have here Redshift, but it's not actually Redshift. It's a Postgres database. It used to be Redshift, but again, it's one of those things where you make an initial choice and then you say, okay, we actually probably don't need this. Let's kind of tune it down a bit and went with Postgres. And then obviously during the data transformation stage, again, we're looking at a few Python jobs, and then obviously Spark with PySpark and so on. Yeah. So now Philippe will probably take you guys into the details of all these things I just talked about.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, in our product, we use essentially the Spark with some script jobs. Python, we use as a technology the Amazon EMR, ECS, S3, and RDS, with Postgres. In our ad hoc analysis, when we are making the studies from the data. Also, we use essentially PySpark, is more easy. With Python, we use tools like Jupyter or Zeppelin. And for some BI, we use the Amazon QuickSight and the Superset from Apache. Also interesting, very interesting. So, as Hernani was saying, we have the aggregation that fits more in the bronze stage. We use basically more the SQL Alchemy to store and get the data. Some SDKs or a Python HTTP client, and some NLT kappa for initial sentiment analysis from text that we can collect from Slack, or for comments in tickets, comments in Git, and so on, so on. Sorry. The orchestration that we use in some scripts, we use the Boto3 with some credentials to use some of these service from Amazon. Also the SQL Alchemy. From the analysis, we just consider some. No, we don't put everything, but from the analysis, you use PySpark, NumPy, Pandas, NetworkGIS to create the graphs, network graphs, and Plotly or Matplotlib to show the visualizations. Here is an example from aggregation API pipeline. In this case, is for Slack. We have already some methods here that we show in that diagram, from the identification of the participants or the objects. And in this case is the event. We can see here the event object, and we consider the contextual type as a Slack conversation in this case. But from the collecting the participants, we also add more context as the same for the objects and additional stats, like, for example, amount of words, the sentiment of some message, identification of some objects like Jira tickets to identify how the sentiment could be regarding that ticket. And yeah. For the orchestration, we have here from our state factor pipeline example, we have some methods also. We first collect the data, we run the script regarding that data. The script make a little transformation and use an algorithm to give us the score, and we store the final data in our database. For the analysis, here we can see mainly PySpark. PySpark is awesome because we can use also SQL notation to create our tables. We just put two pandas in the end, and we got the pandas at the frame. Is awesome. We can see also here some Plotly Express to show an histogram. Sorry. Mainly, we have here a lot of source of data that we collecting. There is a little more. We just show here some of them. We can see Slack, Skype, Zoom, HubSpot, GitHub, GitLab, Google Zendesk, Bamboo, 8x8, Sage, Microsoft, and so on. So we have a lot more. For machine learning models that we are using for study and in production, we have a service from Amazon Comprehend, also with NLT Kappa to obtain the sentiment of the data regarding text. We are seeing also ARIMA to forecast time series, in this case to forecast how many connections or interactions that we can obtain from the future in the ONA. Isolation forest for detections of anomalies. This one was for now the best one that work with our data, that give us better scores. For our state factor, this is not a conventional work because we got a polynomial regression using here, and they are 4 or 5 on that. Also, we are trying to use the graph neural networks to forecast new wedges in the network, like if we can predict if a person of the team of engineering production could connect with the sales or the customer success. And from our platform, and we got the core NLP with our bot Lexi that we can use to write a normal test to show us some chart regarding some team employee, regarding the activity or the sentiment that we could have.
Philippe?
Yeah.
Did you write graph neural network software, or are you using some particular graph? I was interested in the particular GNN that you were using, whether vendor or wrote it yourself. Could you say a little bit more about your GNN?
I can't say a lot because it's in the initial state. We need to work a little more because when I use when we use a lot of nodes, we got an error from this there because we can't. At least for big companies, when we got more than 200 employees, the algorithm not work so well. So this is in study. We need to look more on this. Sorry, I can answer more. Can I continue?
I guess, Philippe, I guess was sorry, I don't know who was asking, but I guess the question was also about which technologies in particular, like libraries, are you using in this case?
Yeah, I was going to say yes. Thanks, Philippe, for answering my question, Philippe.
Thank you. We use the data is regarding we use from the network sheets library, and we create a little transformation to identify and with some epochs, but yeah, we need to work further on this. And yeah, we are finishing almost. So our machine learning models can be used to help the human resources and people teams more strategic. Well, we find that we can analyze engagement to identify factors that can contribute or predict with which employee could be at risk. Workforce planning, use the tenure, performance, promotion history, some patterns, and we can help to planning the workforce decisions. The succession planning, We can use not only the ONA, but is helpful to identify um, informal leaders. Also with the positive relations, positive sentiment in replying or helping the colleagues, some skills that can help the team, tenure, and something more. Also for the performance management, um, what can contribute to high or low performance. Also, we have talent acquisition, learning and development, like how the programs or formations from the company can provide the necessary skills to help the company and the work to be done, compliance benefits from company, and so on and so on. Uh, you can speak, Hernani, I think, if you want. Or no?
Okay, I wasn't ready. Okay, yeah. So this is maybe because there's always a lot of I guess concerns about how we use the data and what we do with it, especially because we're looking at so much of company data, right? So we're not looking at personal data. We're looking at so much of the company data, including public and emphasis on public Slack messages and so on. So there's a few points that we always try to follow and include in everything that we do with regards to data. So one first point is fairness. So first off, because we don't actually look at personal data, that's usually not going to be an issue, but any sort of data point that could lead to discrimination or any sort of bias we avoid. Second point is privacy. Obviously, we like all the data, and this is actually one of the reasons data like we have to analyze data at collection time for some of it, like for example sentiment, and sentiment is very important, not so much for the product now, but some of this development that we're doing right now. We're still under heavy development in a lot of aspects. So in sentiment, text sentiment is very important here, but we don't want to store any of that text or any personal identifiable information. So we just want really these metrics, these human metrics. So we have to analyze data at collection time, and we avoid storing anything that we don't have to. So any sentiment analysis or other sorts of enrichment, we have things like threat level, and we have a set of heuristics that we try to use to collect those sort of things like stress, impact, and so on. All of that is done as soon as we collect the data to avoid storing anything that can be a privacy issue. And then the empowerment piece here is important. So we're not trying to monitor, and even though we talk about performance in more sense of engagement and performance of the team as a whole, more so than the individual employees. Because if the employee or a team member is engaged within the team, then he's going to be, for the most part, as productive as the rest of the team. So we're not necessarily looking at productivity. We're looking at, again, these sort of human metrics. So, and the end goal is to empower the employees, and again, kind of switching up the metric and looking at safe factors, more like, okay, this is a metric of how your team manager and your organization is performing, is performing towards you. So you know if they are keeping you happy, that's kind of what we're looking for. And then yeah, transparency. We are explicit about all the data we look at, and when I say look at, is because for the most part we only look at the data, take the notes that we need, and we don't store it. So we're not actually, for the most part, we're not actually collecting anything. We're just kind of looking at it as it happens, as things happen. We look at it, take our notes, drop off. So if one day there's a massive leak, if anything, you'll see some random numbers that might not make a lot of sense. So there's no company data stored on our servers. In any case, we're pretty transparent about it, and everything is pretty explicit. Okay, we're gonna look at and replying to one of Mark's questions. Yeah, we're gonna look at, for example, your Kanban board or Scrum board, your Jira, your Asana, wherever you use your U-Track. If you connect, obviously, if you connect it, we're gonna look at that, and we're gonna analyze that, and we are clear. Okay, this is what we're gonna look at. We're gonna look at your tickets, your projects. If you have help desk, what's happening on your help desk, your comments are going there. We're going to look at, again, sentiment, because there's this textual communication is always very important to contextualize what's happening. Like it's you can see someone is getting annoyed at a ticket that keeps getting reopened, for example, things like that. And yeah, we're clear about what we're looking at, right? So yeah, I think that's it for this one slide. Okay, and that is in the end, I guess. So maybe I can answer the other question from Mark, I guess, is if we can identify toxic environment or toxic managers. So I guess the goal is, say, a little bit of both. So we want to, we want to understand what's driving you mad, what's kind of burning you out. Is it the environment? Is it the manager? Right. So that's where we're what. So our goal ultimately. So right now, yeah, we can kind of score the sentiment, and we can score that. We can look at you as an individual, say, if you're trending downwards, if your sentiment is, if you're starting to be more negative in your comments and your interactions, or than usual, or if you're actually starting to be more positive, and if you're actually, you just started and initially you were like, okay, it's sort of mixed, and now you're actually being very positive and so on. So we can look at you as an individual, but not still at this point, at least at this point in time, still not looking at sort of the interactions. So, And once we start digging more into the interactions and actually incorporating some of this into the graph and the organization network analysis, then we can start identifying maybe, okay, where is the toxicity coming from? So, okay, is it the manager that is, you know, creating a blame culture, I guess, and you know, driving everyone mad, or is just the environment that is already completely broken, and you know, everyone is just driving everyone's mad, and nobody wants to work with anyone, and so on. So ultimately, that is the goal, and so we're incorporating more of this sentiment analysis and stress factors and so on into the connections between the people, and between the people, and contextualize, for example, also contextualize to, for example, particular projects. So you could say projects or customers, wherever. There's all sorts of context we can try to provide. So, and you can say, okay, this one project, you know, if you have, let's say you have Cura segmented in multiple projects, and you have, and you say, okay, you know, on this one project, you know, people seem to be fairly happy with it. This other projects actually seem to be driving people mad, even if they're the same people. So maybe this is an indication. Okay, the problem here is maybe how this project is laid out. So what's happening with this project? Who are the customers, and so on. So that's where probably. So then we can. So then we're actually sort of entering the realm of the root cause analysis of the toxicity, right? So that's where also this context is important, and connections between the people and between what we call the objects, which are like the tickets, the projects, the accounts, customers, right? I hope that makes sense.
That's a question on kind of what I picture being a cold start problem. So when you start with a new company, there's kind of no precedent for the volume of interactions or the tools that they're using or the way they communicate. How do you manage onboarding a new client without that wealth of data?
Yeah, so most for us, the most important things are more the variations than necessarily like variations on data than necessarily you know, the absolute value. So it is important that something is trending upwards or downwards more than this is the value. It is not an easy problem. This is actually a problem we face a lot, is how to provide value like right off the bat. So a customer, you know, comes in, connects the tools. So we want to provide some value like as soon as you connect the tools. So here there's a dilemma, obviously, because we have API access to the tools that they connect. Like we can go and look back month if we wanted, but then that kind of that kind of brings us to maybe a privacy concern, maybe, or maybe the customer doesn't want us to go and look that far back. So we kind of try to balance, maybe start with 1 week. That's how far back we look back when you first connect your tool, and then try to provide some insights, some light insights based off that, and then you know, there will be we will establish a baseline from there, and then we'll start looking at variations, and you know, how things are trending upwards or downwards, and go from there. But yeah, it's difficult, very difficult problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious also, maybe it's more of a practical thing, but as an employee, if the company says, hey, we're bringing in, this software layer to look over your shoulder at every interaction you have and evaluate it to determine, your deepest secrets, that doesn't feel great. How do you address that, or do you? Is that up to the company to figure out? I say that coming from ad tech, where we do that to everyone, whether they work at a company or not. But I'm still curious your take on it.
Yeah, I guess that's why we try to be so transparent about what we're actually looking at and what is the value we're trying to provide. You know, uh, I guess to a point, there's always people that, or there's always managers that would try to use more as a who do I need to fire rather than who are people who are the ones that need a vacation. I guess, but the way we try to provide the insights and to lay out the data in the front end is more focus on the positives on or helping empowering the employees, but there's always that concern of you're looking at my data, it's not your surveillance, this is a big brother wherever. There's always that concern. It's hard to it's hard to wrap for folks to wrap their head around that, but there's a lot of we have a lot of marketing material and so on to help on that. Actually, I think we have here and I don't want to put her on the spot, but we have here Ashley, which actually who actually deals with that questions on a daily basis. So yeah.
Let's see if hi. I've been in my little hole. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so just speaking about the monitoring piece a little bit from a customer success angle, what we're really doing is we're looking at data in an unbiased way as it comes through the platform, but you need a humanized lens. You need human eyes in that data to really understand what's going on. Essentially, customer success is embedded into the customer teams as an extension of that org, the departments and their teams and employees. And from there, we really work with them to not only help get them over that hurdle of monitoring, which we've done for a couple of customers, but we also work with them to surface process inefficiencies where we could help them scale ROI and save time, where we could really help them connect their team and offer a half day off or a full day off to employees or teams that are really working overtime on a new process or project. So it's more about humanizing what we're doing and also reiterating the fact that we're never looking at keystrokes, logging clicks, we're not screen recording you. These are really important things that people want to hear. And we're not doing that. And we're also really working on building out enablement content that is external facing, people like you and our customers, so that they can really understand where we're coming from. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Ashley, are you in Durham as well?
No, I'm in Colorado. I'm in Denver. It's kind of cloudy today and it's later in the afternoon, so it's getting kind of dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the one question that I did ask Matt when I was introducing myself and recruiting him to do a presentation tonight was whether or not y'all used NLP or NLU, and I saw that you're using the NLTK package for sentiment analysis, but do you also try to understand the language that's being used itself beyond sentiment analysis, or does it kind of stop with sentiment analysis at this point?
So we actually have two components on where we use NLP. So we actually have one bot that is maybe some sort of poor man's chat GPT, maybe, where people can ask sort of questions around the organization. So it's very basic at the moment. And yeah, and where it is mostly just actually on that we're mostly using I think Luke mentioned we're mostly just using Amazon services for that, and then Amazon Likes and so on. And then the other component is the actual sentiment analysis, and yeah, for the moment kind of stops there. So essentially we're just looking at a sentiment and extracting. Well, there's also entity extraction, and we're actually looking at adding sentiment per entity, and this is just more, again, just for contextualizing things. So like to connect dots and to connect like subjects that could be problematic within the organization and so on, not necessarily, not keyword monitoring, because that's and I understand that also sometimes sounds like that, but it's not the idea. The idea here is more connect topics and understand which topics might be problematic, and maybe even connect, you know, chat, that are around a particular customer. So, then based on that segment with that customer, you can also say, okay, maybe this customer is part of the issue here. So there's the other piece. So sentiment analysis, keyword distraction, and I think that's it. Yeah. So those are the two things where we use NLTK for.
Maybe related to that, you mentioned early on something about determining the quality of interactions between employees. So not just are they interacting, but are they working well together? Is that, in my mind, that sounds like NLP work? Is that where that comes from, or is it more metadata about their interactions?
Yeah. So that's right. The sentiment and that's where the extraction also is, because and like, so right now that's not incorporated, but yeah, one of the ideas is to also kind of sort of weed out, because if you're looking at public Slack channels, there's gonna be a lot of goofing around, and sometimes there's gonna be even interactions that are gonna be false negatives or false positives, like people just goofing around and making a joke, and someone will kind of pretend they're reacting negatively and so on. So that's where kind of trying to understand the subject of the conversation is important. Like, okay, are you talking about work or are you just goofing around? So that's very important. And then if we can connect the dots and the pieces and say, okay, so we're not just looking at, okay, there was this ticket and you are the assignee. We are looking at, like, actually trying to understand within the other tools, who have you worked with to finish this ticket. So then based on the outcome, we can start understanding if you work well with that person, like, okay, so every time um, person A and B work together, then the ticket. So person A works on the ticket, and it's the assignee, and then person B is the reviewer, or just providing some assistance in Slack, wherever. Things work well together, or the other way around. Like every time person C comes in and like just tries, everything turns into a turd. Yeah, when person C comes in. So yeah, that's things you're looking at.
Thanks for the discussion on that. Are there any other questions for the team here? If not, I'll go ahead and end the recording and turn it over to Mark for any lightning talks. We just had something come in here. David Johnson asked, I'm interested in how you model the stay factor. Is that a binary variable, like probability of leaving soon, or a scalar, the time until leaving? If it's binary, why use polynomial regression instead of logistic regression?
So I'm gonna leave that one for Philippe. If he's still in, are you still in, Philippe?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, our solution for this was a scalar, because there is no white or black, is gray, and with the papers that we read, we saw that in the beginning maybe the things are too much light, but when the time will pass, not so light, become dark. For example, the tenor is the one component consider that a study says that after 5 years the people tend to leave the company. So the solution for the polynomial regression was to consider that fact, to have a spike, if is the correct word, that when they get on the 5 years got the maximum score and tend to become lower, like we have a hyperbole. I think. Sorry for my English. And for the other components, was more or less the same solution, not have so a binary solution, because there is or no 1 or 0. It can be in the middle, so we consider only a scalar in all the components. If
Yes.
can answer the question.
So just to add up that, so yeah, what Philippe mentioned is essentially is more, it's closer to a probability of more like a score from 0 to 100, or 0 to 1, I guess. It's more like a score, but it's actually composed of several components. Yeah, work-life balance, for example, it's one of them. Like, okay, we're actually looking at the times you're active, and maybe if you're kind of jumping in outside of hours and that sort of stuff. And but then that also, like, the ratio of those sort of things varies with other factors like your tenure, potentially your age, because at some point you start looking at this sort of things differently, um, and so on. So, but all those factors behind, they are a score, and then all of them converge into one single score.
Yeah, that more complete.
All right, well, thanks, Hernani and Philippe, for awesome presentation and walking us through everything you do. Cool work. Looks like a lot of fun data and really interesting problems you get to work on.
It was our pleasure.
Please stick around. I know you're on the other side of the Atlantic, but stick around for my lightning talk. Just bear with me. It's a short one.